more. We're going to start now. Again, welcome everyone. It's Michelle Royer from the Lucy Robbins Wells Library, Head of Community Services. And I am here also with the Berlin Peck. We are collaborating on this program tonight. And we have with us Jill Patterson, and our program is called Eat This, Not That. Our program will be recorded tonight. So if you would like to watch this program again, or you would like to tell anybody about it, you are welcome to do that. We will also have it on our website at the library for a month. So Jill, I'm hoping you can tell us how we can tweak our diets and change our lives with this Eat This, Not That program. I will say that we are going to ask everyone to stay muted tonight. And what we will do is if you have questions, you can put them in the chat and we will address them as they come up. And feel free to send a message in the chat if you have any questions about the program, and we will answer them as they go. So Lori from Berlin, Michelle from Newington, and Jill, welcome. And let's talk about eating this and not that.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. And I want to thank all the libraries for putting this together and putting this on. And thank you all for coming tonight to learn about Eat This, Not That. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist, as well as a certified personal trainer and group fitness instructor. And my background includes working in schools, doing a lot of educational programs along with school nutrition and school lunch and all of that. So I like to infuse a lot of fun activities within our presentations to make learning about nutrition fun. And currently I work in employee wellness settings where I do presentations and one-on-one nutrition counseling and health coaching. So we will get started. And I did want to just do a couple of housekeeping items. If you have something to write with, a pen and a piece of paper, we're going to be using that later on. So if you want to grab that before we get going, that's a good thing to have handy, because we'll be doing a fun nutrition exercise where we'll need that pen and paper later on. And also in the chat box, we want to make this interactive. So I'll be asking you guys some questions and you can answer in the chat box. If you have questions that you think of that pop into your head, you can put those into the chat box. And then at the end, we'll also have some time for Q&A. And if people want to come on camera at the end and talk things through, we can do that, or you can continue to put items in the chat box. Also, I put a link to a survey in the chat box. If you want to grab that survey link towards the end, we'd appreciate it if you'd fill that out to get some feedback on the program and maybe some insight on additional future wellness programming that you might be interested in. Okay, so to get started with Eat This, Not That, we're going to talk about nutrient-rich foods, and then we will be doing a nutrition exercise towards the end where we need that pen and paper, and sprinkled throughout, we're going to have some Eat This, Not That game questions. So we'll get going with nutrient-rich foods are also called nutrient-dense foods, and these are foods that contain a lot of nutrients for a few calories. Most of the time, there are foods coming from the food groups, and within each food group, we have more nutrient-rich food choices and less nutrient-rich food choices. So we'll get into the details on what that looks like. And yeah, so we're going to get going with our first question is, if you could type in the chat box, yes or no, have you seen this image before, this picture right here that's called Choose My Plate? If you can type, I just want to see who's seen this before, who hasn't seen this before. If you want to type yes if you've seen it, and no if you are not familiar with it. So I see a few people typing yes, no, yes, no. Okay, so we've got, let's see, any other answers on this? I see some yeses and a few no's. Okay, great. So this is, if we remember the food groups and the food pyramid back in the day, this is the updated version of that. And I always like to keep this in mind when we're planning meals, that we ideally want to make half of our plate vegetables or a combination of fruits and vegetables, a fourth of the plate protein, good protein foods, a fourth of the plate should be complex carbohydrates like grains, and then off to the side is the dairy group. So this combination, when we eat in this way, gives us the optimal fuel for the body that gives us tons of benefits in terms of preventing certain diseases. It helps us with weight management. It helps us to have energy. So a lot of good benefits from kind of eating in this way. And then what we're going to do is get into within each group, what are the more nutrient-rich food choices and what are the less nutrient-rich food choices so that we can maximize our eating plan. Okay, so when we look at the fruit group, fruits are providing us with vitamins, fiber, phytochemicals, and antioxidants. So a lot of good nutrients are in fruits. And we're going to go into our first game question. Which of these fruits is a more nutrient-rich choice? So when we're comparing 100% orange juice or a fresh orange, if you want to type in the chat box what you think would be a more nutrient-rich choice when we're comparing these two foods together. Okay, let's see. We have great, lots of responses here. The orange, fresh orange, fresh orange. Okay, so let's see. Does anyone think the juice is fresh orange? Good. Any other guesses? Okay, so I don't see anyone saying the juice. Okay, so that is correct. The fresh orange is a more nutrient-rich choice because it contains the fiber and all of the other nutrients with that. But I will say that there are situations where the 100% orange juice might be more appropriate. So for example, if somebody had dental issues and was having difficulty chewing, or somebody got their braces tightened on their teeth and they need something that's not so much chewing. Also, if somebody was having an IBS flare up, like a gastrointestinal issue, and they needed to go on a low residue diet temporarily, then the juice would be a lower fiber choice. And in those cases, that would be more appropriate. But in general, everyone is correct that when we're comparing these two foods together, the fresh orange is more nutrient rich because you're getting everything in there with the fiber and all of that. Also, I mean, obviously both of these choices are nutrient rich. In terms of juices, we'd be looking for 100% versions. We don't want to do so many of the juice drinks because that's not necessarily the naturally occurring sugars from fructose that come with all the good nutrients. And in general, the recommendation is 8 ounces a day for adults in terms of juice. If we're looking at a general recommendation, 8 ounces or less, if you like juice. Okay, so within the fruits, we have fresh, frozen, and canned varieties. Fresh fruit examples would be strawberries, blueberries, bananas, oranges, apples, grapes, any of the fresh fruits, melon. And then frozen varieties can come in every variety as well. So frozen berries, frozen mango. Sometimes these are good to use in smoothies. And then our canned varieties could include things like canned peaches, canned pears, pineapples, applesauce. And what we want to look for in the canned varieties or the frozen varieties is no sugar added or unsweetened, or if it's a can and it's packed in its own juice versus heavy syrup. That way it's still going to be sweet because we're getting the naturally occurring fructose from the fruit, but it doesn't have that added sugar with it. So when we're looking within the fruits, if we want to do some swap ups for a more nutrient rich choice, if we're looking at sugar sweetened frozen berries, we can look for frozen berries with no added sugar. If we're looking at sugar sweetened applesauce, just looking for the unsweetened applesauce versions. Canned peaches packed in heavy syrup, we can look for canned peaches packed in their own juice. If we're looking at 100% orange juice or 100% apple juice, swapping it up for that fresh fruit, the actual orange or the apple. Juice drinks. So sometimes it's weird because you'll see something that looks like orange juice, but it'll say like orange juice drink, and it won't say the word 100%. So we'd want to switch that up to a 100% version. Fruit snacks like candy, we could have a variation of that would be a little bit more nutrient rich with getting a real fruit. So you could try freezing grapes and have frozen grapes. You could do fresh strawberries with or without sugar. If we're adding a little bit of sugar for sweetness, we're still getting all those good nutrients from the fresh strawberries as opposed to the fruit snack candy. Cutting up those oranges into fresh orange smiles or the orange wedges would be a good swap out for that. And then our next question is vegetables. So now we're talking about the vegetable group. True or false, fresh vegetables are healthier than canned vegetables? And you can type your answer in the chat box. Okay, so we're seeing, let's see, true or false, fresh vegetables are healthier than canned vegetables. So some people are saying fresh, and yes, that's true. Great, fresh, yes, true. I think I saw a false in there. Okay, I did see a false, just one false. Okay, great. So the answer to this is actually false. So we had one person say false. And so the reason for that is when we're looking at the vegetables, if they're frozen, canned, or fresh, they're all going to contain the nutrients that come from vegetables. So whether it's antioxidants, phytochemicals, vitamins, fiber, all of the nutrients are going to be there. Sometimes when we're canning or freezing, we're canning at the peak of ripeness. So they might actually have the most nutrients in that variety. And definitely we want to focus on what's the most palatable and tastes good for each individual. So if you prefer fresh vegetables and that's your preference in terms of taste, and you like fresh salads and things like that, then you can go with that. Oftentimes I'm working with busy people. And so a lot of us are very busy in today's fast-paced world, and they might only get to the store once a week or once every other week. And in that case, it might be good to have some canned vegetables or frozen vegetables on hand so that we're being consistent with eating those vegetables every day, ideally, if the fresh vegetables are going bad. So there's a lot of good reasons why we just want to have a variety, and again, picking what your preference is. But that's definitely a myth where we've talked about fresh vegetables being better than canned vegetables in terms of a nutrient standpoint. Okay, great. Yes, and I see a great comment in here as well. So with the BPA, which is the bisphenol A, so that is a great point. That, if the FDA has approved that to be in the amounts that we're looking at in the canned vegetables, it's okay. But if people are concerned about the BPA, as with everything, we want to be moderate and do moderation. So if you are eating tons of canned foods all day, every day, we might want to kind of make that a variety so that we're not eating tons and tons of canned vegetables. So that is a good point to look for the to consider the BPA piece of that. Okay. Oh, great. And I see another awesome comment from Linda in terms of you have to go with unsalted canned veggies. You guys are some good nutrition experts here. This is great. Yes. So that is a very great point in terms of the unsalted varieties. So let's see. Okay. And I did want to get into the unsalted, and we'll get into that as well, but we're going to do another game question in terms of this one. So you can type in the chat box what you think the answer to this is. What is the healthiest color vegetable? And you can type, is it the green vegetables where we say, oh, we need to eat our greens? So spinach and salads and romaine and broccoli and asparagus and all of those good green vegetables. Is it the orange yellow group, which would be things like carrots, yellow peppers, squash, turnip, things like that would be in the orange and yellow group. And then the red group would be things like tomatoes and red peppers, marinara sauce, pizza sauce. And then within the purple and blue group would be things like eggplant. If it was a fruit, it might be blueberries. And then within the white group would be things like mushrooms and potatoes. So if you want to type in what you think the healthiest color vegetable group that we should be eating the most of would be. You can type that into the chat box. Okay, let's see. Oh, good. I'm seeing a lot of good answers here. So I'm seeing green, purple, blue, green, green. You know, we always get the message, eat your greens, right? All depends on what nutrient vitamins you're looking for. So that's a great point as well. Need to eat all the colors of the rainbow. Very good. They're all good, but I've heard white is better. Like, for example, cauliflower. Oh, like we're doing all these cauliflower pizza crusts and cauliflower rice. I don't know if anyone's ever tried those products. Green, 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 a variety of all. Okay, great. So we've got some great answers here. And let's see. So the answer is a rainbow of all the colors. And so when we're looking at this, oftentimes we'll look at like the nutrition facts label on products, and it'll say, you know, how much vitamin C is in a product, or, you know, when we're looking at the nutrient piece. But to keep in mind with vegetables and fruits, we're also getting the naturally occurring color that happens in nature. And with that comes these phytonutrients, these like plant-based nutrients. So within the green category, we're getting some additional benefits that include helping with vision health and bone health. You know, we have calcium as well to help with bone health, but from those green vegetables, we're getting that benefit. From the orange and yellow group, we're getting, you know, helping build our immune system. So when we think of like oranges and vitamin C and, you know, that kind of a group, we're looking at the immune health. The red group, that helps us with our heart health as well in terms of that phytonutrient. The purple and blue group helps us with our memory. If we've ever heard like blueberries helping with the brain health, that's why, because of that particular phytonutrient within that color group. And then the white as well is very important, helping with our heart health as well. So things like the mushrooms, cauliflower, and potatoes would count in that group. Bananas would actually count in that group because the white part is the part that we eat in a banana. So great. So yes, we want to get all those colors and kind of looking at it from the course of a week. Are we getting a rainbow over the course of a week when we're looking at our nutrients? So within vegetables, we again have the fresh, frozen, and canned varieties. And, you know, we all are familiar with our fresh vegetables, which hopefully we've enjoyed with the summer season. They're more in season with the bell peppers and asparagus and broccoli and mushrooms and leafy greens and nice, cool, crisp salads. And then for the frozen varieties, you could get frozen turnip, frozen broccoli, frozen corn. And then with the canned, I like how I think it was Linda mentioned the no salt added variety. So definitely if you are doing canned vegetables, looking for the no salt added, no sodium. If you look at the back of the label, you want it to have, you know, like 5 milligrams or less of the sodium, especially if you're concerned about blood pressure or heart health. We'd want to make sure that we're going lower on that sodium. And then also as we go into like the cooler months, like with the winter, oftentimes I'll hear clients say, oh, it was so easy in the summer to eat lots of vegetables because everything's cool and we want to cool off. So I did just want to point out there are some products like some of these pictured products here where, you know, you can add some flavors to the vegetables, whether it's like broccoli with cheese sauce or different varieties that you, if you check out that freezer section, that might be enjoyable, because again, we're looking at combining the palatability, like if we're enjoying the taste of it, you know, if we're looking for hot vegetables and a little bit more flavor, because it then is that vehicle that gets those nutrients in with all that fiber and all of those phytonutrients and vitamins, which help us to stay healthy and help with weight management and all sorts of good benefits. So again, looking for those vegetable swaps, you know, if you're choosing canned vegetables with added salt, looking for the no salt added varieties. French fries, I know in school nutrition, we would say the middle school years are the French fry years, where that might be the only vegetable that a 12-year-old might be eating. So technically they are a vegetable because they come from potatoes. and looking at like, say, baked French fries or baked sweet potato fries would be getting that vitamin A and those boost of nutrients and less of the fat and saturated fat. And then potato chips are also would be a lesser nutrient rich vegetable within the vegetable group. So choosing varieties that have less ingredients, like the Cape Cod potato chips have like potatoes and oil if you were to read the ingredient label. Or if you're craving something crunchy, you could look for, making your own like fresh crudité, like bell pepper strips, cutting up cucumber wheel, celery sticks, baby carrots. And if you're adding a little hummus with that, you're going to be getting a little plant-based protein with that. If you want to add dip with it to make it more flavorful, that's fine too, because you're getting those good vegetables in. Okay, so our next category is grains. And what we want to do is type in the chat box, is this product a whole grain? So if we're looking at this product, do you think this is a whole grain or no? So you can say, yes, it's a whole grain, or no, this is not a whole grain, and type that into the chat box. Okay, great. I'm seeing some responses on here. Most people are saying no. Let's see, no. Okay, great. Any other answers on there? Okay, most everyone is saying no. I don't think I see any yeses. I don't buy anything that the first ingredient is enriched. Don't think so. Okay, great. Okay, awesome. So yes, very good, you guys. Like, this is one of those ones where it could be a little bit of a trick in terms of the marketing, because it's like in big letters, multigrain bread. And so we might think that that's a whole grain, but then when we read the actual ingredient label, yes, Kathleen has hit the nail on the head. Havital has also said it. Okay, so it says enriched, not whole. That is the key word here. So for the first word, we want it to say whole wheat or whole grain, and we want to make sure it says that whole word versus this enriched. So that is correct. And so examples of grains, which are giving us good complex carbohydrates, which give us some good quick energy: bread, pasta, rice, cereal, English muffins. And most of the products today have a whole grain version or a whole grain variety. So we're looking at that ingredient label for that word to say whole wheat or whole grain. And so this Arnold bread happens to be an example of that. So if we're looking at this nutrition facts label or this ingredient label where we're seeing all the words, the first word is whole wheat flour, and then water. So that is a whole grain. And then if the first word was water and then the second word was whole wheat, then that could count as a whole grain as well. But the only word that can precede the whole wheat or whole grain is water. Anything else would make it not at least 51% by weight whole wheat. So when we're looking at our grain group, we want to try to swap up to some of the whole grains. If we're having white bread, maybe try out a whole grain bread. White rice could be traded up for brown rice. Crackers, we could look for whole grain crackers like Triscuits or Wheat Thins are whole grain crackers, or popcorn is also a whole grain. If we were having like a Fruit Loop kind of a cereal, we could swap that out for a whole grain cereal, or oatmeal. Pasta, trying out the whole grain pasta, and then maybe swapping up a English muffin for a whole wheat English muffin. And the general recommendation is to make half of your grains whole grains. So if you were to think about your day and you were to have like 6 servings of grains in a day, say you had 2 at breakfast, 2 at lunch, and 2 at dinner, ideally 3 of those would be whole grains. So there's still some room if people are like, oh, I don't want to have, I know in like say school nutrition, we'd be making macaroni and cheese with whole wheat pasta and it didn't taste so good. So if you want to have some non-whole grains, in general, we want to try to make half of our grains whole grains. And then for protein, we've got good protein sources which help with maintaining our muscle mass, helping us to stay full. So helping with that satiety. So that's another important thing in weight management as well. There's been a lot of research done on protein helping with our brain function and health as well. So trying to eat protein at every meal, if we can include a protein group at breakfast, lunch, dinner, so it's spaced out throughout the day, is ideal. And some less nutrient dense protein sources would be things like bacon, sausage, pepperoni, hot dogs, salami, and bologna. Those would contain, less protein amount for the amount of calories and saturated fat that would be in those types of foods. And then more nutrient-rich choices would include things like turkey, chicken, fish, eggs, and then some vegetarian sources could be peanut butter, tofu. So we definitely need to make sure we're getting adequate protein in. So now we have another game question. In terms of the dairy group, which we're going to go into now, which of these is a more nutrient-rich choice if we're comparing these particular two products? So low-fat chocolate milk or vanilla ice cream? And you can put that in the chat box. Which one do you think is more nutrient-rich, meaning it's providing more nutrition and more nutrients and less calories and fat? Okay, I'm seeing we're a little bit split on this one. We're seeing chocolate milk, ice cream. Okay, any other guesses here? Okay. Okay, and neither go for the string cheese. Okay, that's a great option too. Awesome. Okay, so if we're comparing these two products, and the string cheese is a great dairy, calcium-rich protein option as well, and especially that mozzarella string cheese is lower in fat, so that's a great example too. Okay, so when we're comparing these two together, it would be the low-fat chocolate milk because we're getting 30% of our calcium needs in the chocolate milk. We're adding just a little bit of flavor with the chocolate flavoring, but we're still getting 8 grams of protein per cup. We're still getting that calcium, the vitamin D, and a bunch of other vitamins as well. Whereas the ice cream is going to have a lot less protein, less calcium, like very next to minimal, and then it's still going to provide the calories and fat. Now, there are a lot of products out on the market now in terms of like frozen yogurts and all of those kind of things. So if you compare the nutrition facts label, you might be able to get like a frozen yogurt or something like that that has the live active yogurt cultures, and it has a little bit more protein and more calcium than just straight out ice cream. So if somebody's interested in that, you could look for a healthier version on that, or a more nutrient rich version. Okay. So we want to incorporate dairy foods in terms of providing that bone building calcium. It provides protein, vitamin D, vitamin A, potassium. We're getting these mainly from milk, yogurt, and cheese, and choosing the non-fat and low-fat varieties if we're concerned about, especially heart health. We want to go lower on that saturated fat amount, which would be found in the full fat dairy products. These pictures here are an example of a product where the way they filter it, it's tastes like whole milk, but it's really the nutrition of low fat milk. So if people are like, I don't like that skim milk, it tastes like water or whatnot, these might be some options with that. Let's see. Okay. So within the dairy group, we can swap out for whole milk for the skim or the 1% milk. We can look at the cheeses like cheddar or mozzarella or ricotta and look for, like, say, a 2% variety or a reduced fat variety. In terms of yogurt made with whole milk, it's going to have more calories and fat. So if you're looking to cut that down, looking for the non-fat and low-fat varieties, or the yogurt with the added sugar, you can always do some plain yogurt and add fruit for sweetness, for a naturally occurring sweetness, which comes with all those other nutrients from the fruit. Okay, now we're going to get into snacks. So typically we think of snacks like vending machine snacks, like chips and candy bars and things like that. So ideally, when we think back to the food groups and the My Plate example, we would like to make our snacks like kind of like miniature meals, and choosing 2 or 3 food groups and putting that together. So pairing the protein and carbohydrates is a great thing to do, because that's keeping our blood sugar level on an even keel, also helping with satiety and feeling full, so that we're not ravenous and eating everything. So that's important. So some examples of some healthy snacks could be combining fruit, yogurt, and granola parfait, so that you're getting the fruit group, you're getting the yogurt group, which is also giving some good probiotics, calcium, and protein. And then the granola would be a grain. It's made out of oats. It would be a whole grain, or you could combine veggie sticks and hummus. So you'd be getting a good source of protein, along with some very antioxidant filled, phytonutrient rich vegetables. Continuing with those examples, you could pair like a wheat thin or a Triscuit, which would be a whole grain cracker, with cheddar or any kind of cheese, and then add some grapes on the side. So you're getting the 3 food groups there. You could try dipping apple slices in peanut butter. So combining, again, carbohydrate and protein, and getting the fruit and that vegetarian source of protein with the peanut butter. So those are all good examples of healthy snacks. And then if we get into the beverages, so okay, and we'll just finish up on the dairy too. So I see another question on here: how healthy are the non-dairy options for milk, yogurt, or cheese if you have a problem with dairy? Okay, that's a great question. So yeah, let's go over that. So if there's a problem with dairy in terms of an allergy, like a milk allergy, or if it's lactose intolerance or something like that, definitely we need to find some alternatives. So it could be soy milk. Soy milk is going to provide similar nutrient composition as cow's milk in terms of the calcium content and all the protein and the vitamins and all of that. So that's a good choice. In terms of the plant-based milks, like almond milk, oat milk, those kind of products, what we want to do is look at that and say, okay, those provide a decent amount of calcium. They're pretty good with the calcium content, but they're lower in protein often. So for example, an 8-ounce cup of cow's milk would have 8 grams of protein, and a almond milk would have probably 1 gram of protein. So we would just need to like get another protein source in there. So just being aware of that, if we're kind of switching from a cow's milk to some other type of milk, if we're lacking on the protein, we can just add another food that's a protein to get that in there. But we're kind of trying to put that puzzle piece all together so that we're getting all the macronutrients, which are our carbohydrate, protein, and fat, and we're getting all our micronutrients, which are all the vitamins and minerals. And that's why kind of building this plate is how we're going to do that. When we're applying all of these numbers and calculations. So definitely if we're swapping out the cow's milk, just being aware that it might have less protein in the plant-based milks. So it's a great question. Beverages. So in terms of soda or alcohol, we can make a juice spritzer. So we could combine, a splash of cranberry juice or the 100% orange juice and mix it with sparkling water. So that's kind of a fun way to swap out soda or alcohol. Swapping sweetened tea and sweetened lemonades and things like that for the unsweetened tea or herbal tea or caffeine-free tea. So we definitely want to stay hydrated. And if we're doing caffeinated drinks like caffeinated sodas or caffeinated coffee or tea, kind of thinking of that as like a half, like it does count towards our fluid requirement, but it's more like half is what we're getting because it's a diuretic effect with the caffeine. So just being aware of that. Okay, let's see. Okay. So in terms of our water, sometimes people don't like the flavor of water, and that prevents them from drinking enough water. So, you know, you can make your own flavor infused water, like squeezing fresh lemon in, you know, adding ice. You make cucumber water, using limes, oranges, any kind of flavor infused water combinations that you want to make. There's also products on the market like hint water that, you know, they make it, you know, like a little hint of a flavor. So that's also an option as well. And then if we get into the desserts, like, so kind of to hit our sweet tooth or whatnot, we can choose some options that would be more nutrient rich. So chocolate covered strawberries, if we make those, you know, you can easily choose like a dark chocolate chip or a semi-sweet chocolate chip and melt those, and then make your own chocolate covered strawberries. There's also these like apple cookie things that are just homemade. So this one pictured here, it's an apple with peanut butter and then a few little chocolate chips and maybe some nuts on there. You can also kind of do a similar thing with the chocolate. Like you could do, so obviously you're dipping the apple slices in lemon juice so that it prevents it from browning. And then you can melt chocolate and then sprinkle some crushed walnuts on there, put it on like the wax paper on a plate in the fridge. And it's kind of making your own homemade candy, if you will. But there's a lot of nutrients in that, because when you think of it, you're getting the apple in, you're getting all the nutrients from the apple. If it's, you know, a darker chocolate, you're getting the those added antioxidants from that. And then the walnuts are a good heart healthy nut that helps with our cholesterol and all of that. So, and then you're combining a little bit of protein and carbohydrate, but it's actually a sweet treat there. And I don't know if anyone's ever tried these coconut Medjool date rolls. That's what's pictured in the right corner. It kind of looks like chocolates, but it's a sweet, it's made out of dates and it's all pressed. So that's kind of an interesting, healthier, sweet option as well. And then again, you can do chocolate covered pineapples. You can kind of do chocolate covered any kind of fruit. As we're going to fall, you know, trying if the apples, you can do cinnamon sugar apple slices. So really just cutting up the apple and shaking it around in a baggie with some cinnamon sugar makes a nice flavor with that. And then a lot of the ice cream things on the market, there's some healthier options, whether we're looking at the portion control and having like a portion control bar. And then some of them are made out of Greek yogurt, which you're going to be getting added probiotics and protein and calcium and all of that. So there's some options within that as well. Okay, and I'd like to just point out as well, when we're looking at these nutrient-rich foods, if we're choosing more nutrient-rich foods within the food groups, then we're getting our nutrients and we're getting them at lower calories. And so then we have room for the treats. Like, so if we kind of think about like 80% nutrient-rich foods, 20% treats, we can fit it all together and get that puzzle piece of good nutrition in. So, you know, an example I like to use is if someone was like, oh, I really am craving chocolate cake. And then they're like, well, it would be better to eat an apple. And oh, that didn't hit the spot. Maybe it would be better to eat some fat-free ice cream. And then that didn't hit the spot. So, oh, nuts are a healthy snack. I'll have some of those. And then it's like, and then, you know, we eat the chocolate cake anyways, because that's what we really wanted. So I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but that's why I want to kind of put this puzzle piece all together where we're choosing our nutrient-rich foods where it makes sense, and then still having that treat in there as well, so that we're not in a deprivation state or anything like that. So definitely keeping that in mind too, that we can have whatever it is. I mean, I'm a big fan of chocolate cake, but it could be potato chips or whatever your maybe fun foods are. We can fit that in. So, okay, awesome. Yes, okay, I like it. I see some good comments on here. Like if you want the chocolate cake, the other stuff just won't do it. Exactly. So that's why we want to kind of keep that in mind too, that we can build that into a healthy eating plan. Like if your day consists of, you know, all those healthy nutrient-rich food groups, and then you're having some chocolate cake. And I will say, when I first was taking, it was Nutrition 101 in college to be a dietitian. And the cover of the textbook was literally a bunch of different ice creams. And that was the whole point, was, and this was a nutrition textbook, was that if you're eating like, you know, Dunkin' donuts, and then you're eating, you know, fast food, whatever, and like all those kinds of things all day long, and then you have a little broccoli, that broccoli is part of maybe an overall not so nutrient rich eating plan. But if you were to have, you know, what we're talking about, like a healthy breakfast, lunch, and dinner with all those food groups, and then you have some ice cream, that ice cream is part of a healthy plan. Okay, great. So now getting into the cooking methods, let's see. Yes, and I see another great comment, just like adding on to that in terms of, I make it a point to eat birthday cake, a small slice, but I think it's important to celebrate the person and their day. So that's also a very good point. Like if you're part of, we're all part of life, right? Where it's like, you might be at a wedding or a birthday, and it's like part of these celebrations, and you want to partake in that. So that's definitely a good point as well. And that's why we're kind of looking at everything together, where it's like what our taste buds like, what we, you know, physiologically feel like eating, if it's part of these events and these celebrations. And that's why we're kind of going nutrient rich, so we have room for those treats and things like that. So that's a great point. I like that. So in terms of baking and cooking methods, if we're looking for lower calorie and lower fat, we're looking for baking, broiling, and steaming versus frying. Also, in terms of baking, like if you were baking muffins or cakes, you can try replacing the oil with applesauce for a lower fat version. I don't know if anyone's ever tried that. If you want to type in the chat box if you've ever tried doing that. I mean, I usually use that, and it comes out well. And then there's a lot of, you know, on the manufacturer's website, say for example, the Siggy's yogurt, it'll show, you know, how you can swap out sour cream for the yogurt, and that also is going to be more nutrient rich in terms of your probiotics, your calcium, your protein, and lower fat, lower calories. So there's a lot of good options out there. Let's see. Okay, I love it. So people have tried this in brownies, like the applesauce swap out. Awesome. And then also you can use banana instead of oil. Okay, great. Thank you. That's a great suggestion there. So yep, you can do that as well. The banana, and probably mash it up. And then applesauce or banana can replace most oil. Great. And then for the oil applesauce swap, is it 1-to-1? Yes, typically if it's like a third a cup of oil, it would be a third a cup of applesauce. Sometimes some of the mixes and stuff might say specifically what it is, but it usually works if it's 1-to-1 swap out. Yes, the grandchildren don't notice the difference with applesauce versus oil. Okay, I love it. Awesome. So we're getting some healthy foods into those grandchildren. Great. Okay. And then when we're going out to restaurants, again, looking for items that are baked, broiled, or steamed are going to be healthier, not healthier, but like lower in fat, lower in saturated fat, asking for salad dressing or condiments on the side, so that then you have control over how much, you know, you're putting on there. So it's not necessarily drenched in salad dressing. Asking for what you want, like pulling items together. So sometimes the menu might not have exactly what you want, but you can always pull things together. If you see they have a chicken dish and you see they have salad over here, you can kind of pull it together and make that my plate meal, if you will. And then also wrapping up leftovers and adding extra vegetables to enjoy a second meal is a great idea. So for example, if you go out to eat and you get a big plate of ravioli, you know, you could order like a side salad with that, eat half of it, but you're kind of making that my plate meal at the restaurant, and then take the rest of it home, add your own side dishes at home with that entree, because sometimes the restaurants will have a balanced meal and they kind of plan that way, but sometimes it'll be like this huge entree and not really that balance of half the plate being vegetables. So you can definitely still make that happen at the restaurants now that we know how to kind of put this all together. Okay, great. Okay, I love this. We've got some great suggestions here. I like to split one entree with a friend when we go out, makes room for bread, wine, or dessert. Awesome. Okay, that's a great idea. So you're splitting the entree, and then you can have the bread, wine, or dessert with that too. That's great. So you're watching the portion size. Awesome. And if you're going out to eat, you can research nutrition info before you go. That's a great suggestion. Yes, so they usually have everything on the websites, and even on the menu itself has the calories and all of those things, so that you can kind of plan. And again, pulling all those good food groups together and choosing the lower fat kind of options, if you will. Great, awesome. Okay, so nutrition, eating in this healthy, balanced way that we've been talking about can impact our mood, our energy, performance, concentration, memory, sleeping well, our blood sugar levels, preventing certain chronic diseases, and help with our weight management. So now I'd like to get out our pen and paper, and we're going to do a nutrition exercise here. So what we want to do is write down everything that you ate yesterday, or if it's like a 24-hour period, we could do it today as well, like in terms of what did you eat over the course of 24 hours, getting a good idea for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, beverages, and you can get that writing, and I'll give everyone a minute to kind of put that together. Awesome. So yeah, keep writing those things. So we want to remember snacks, beverages, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'll give everyone a minute to kind of jot those notes down. Good. And when you're ready, if you want to put in the chat box that you're ready, just so I can give everyone a couple more minutes to get that piece of it done. Oh, good. I'm seeing some examples. Breakfast apple, whole grain waffle with peanut butter. That's great. We're getting these balanced My Plate meals in just like that. So we're going to write the whole day down. Veggie lasagna, broccoli, green tea, banana, lemon water, pickle. Great. Okay, awesome. So you guys are really good at getting your, hopefully proportion wise, half of the plate vegetables. And some of these foods, like say, for example, the veggie lasagna, that's considered a combination food because we're getting, we might have the protein if there's cheese in there. And then we have the noodles, which would be the grains. If there's sauce in there or vegetables in there, that would count towards the vegetables. So that when we dissect it, if we're making these My Plate meals, sometimes the food like a taco or a pizza or a lasagna is all in there together. So if we were to think about it, if we were to put it on a plate, we're not really going to dissect the food, but if we were going to dissect it all up there, would half of the plate be vegetables? Would a fourth be the noodles? Would a fourth be the protein? And if it's not, we can work on adding it. Like say, for example, we need to beef it up with a side salad or a vegetable, or maybe we're missing a protein and we need to add something in like that. That's kind of how we want to balance that out. Let's see, we have some other things. Lunches, string cheese and Triscuits. Okay, great. So kind of like that mini meal snack, but that could be putting that together for a good portable lunch. Special a protein cereal with berries, soy milk, hazelnuts, 2 prunes. Okay, great. Awesome. Egg muffins, banana, peach, blueberry, Chobani yogurt, flaxseed, fiesta salad, 4 cookies, pumpkin Alfredo sauce, 20. Okay, great. Oh, good. So you've got your things ready. So I think we're ready for the next step, it looks like. And so the next step is, now we're going to categorize those foods. So from that list, we now want to make another little list here that says these 6 groups: grains, protein, dairy, fruits, vegetables, and other. And by other, in this case, I mean cake, cookies, things that might be in the sweet dessert category, or yeah, because we'll just have the healthy fats within the food group. So we aren't really tallying those. So if you want to go through line by line, like if you had waffles with peanut butter, then you'd put the waffles in the grain group, you'd make a little mark. Depending on how many is a serving. So if you had, I'm trying to think of one waffle, like depending on what size waffle it is, it might be one waffle is one serving of grain, or 2 waffles would be 2 servings of grain. And I'll kind of talk about some portion sizes. And if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat in terms of how many marks to do for each thing. So for example, 1 slice of bread, depending on the size, if it's a smaller slice of bread, 1 bread is 1 grain. Cereal, if it's a half a cup of cereal, that's 1 grain. So if you had 1 cup of cereal, it would be 2 grains. If you had 2 cups of cereal, it would be 4 grains. Pasta and rice, half a cup would equal 1 grain. So if you had a full cup of pasta or rice, it would count as 2 marks in the grain group. For protein, the way we're going to tally this is if it's 3 ounces, 3 or 4 ounces, or the palm of your hand, we'll count that as 1 protein serving for this exercise. For dairy, it would be a cup of yogurt, a cup of milk, an ounce of cheese, that would count as a dairy. For fruits, if it's a handheld fruit, 1 orange would be 1 fruit. Vegetables, if it's a leafy salad, then it's going to be 1 cup equals 1 vegetable. If it's a cooked down vegetable, like cooked broccoli or cooked carrots, that's going to be a half a cup is 1 vegetable serving. So we want to just kind of do our little hash marks. And if you want to share in the chat what you're getting in terms of how many grains, how many proteins, how many fruits and vegetables in this chat box, I welcome people to share that, or you can just keep it to yourself either way. Oatmeal with fruit and peanut butter. Okay, great. I'm seeing some great combinations of what people have been doing. I keep a food journal, have been for years. It really helps with weight management. Okay, that's a great tip as well, kind of writing down. So this exercise must be easy if you can consult your food journal, right? I know a lot of people are like, I don't remember what I ate yesterday. Let's see. Oh, good. I see some things on here. Okay. I see another great question. What are your thoughts about various bean or quinoa pastas? I think that's great. If they're because especially like I didn't even get to that example yet. You guys are reading this future tripping here in terms of what we're going to talk about. So like say the Barilla Plus pasta, it's made out of ground chickpeas, which is going to give a plant-based protein within the pasta. So those are great. Or if you're getting spiralized vegetables and things like that, that's bumping up the vegetable serving. So that's a good product. And I see one person who wrote their amount in there. 4 grains, 3 proteins, 1 dairy, 2 fruits, 0 vegetables. Okay, great. So let's go to our next step with this. Okay, so what we want to do is once we have our numbers on all of those categories, we want to look what we need to do. So it's very eye-opening. Like if somebody saw that they had 0 vegetables, then we'd be like, oh, I need to be more aware of incorporating more vegetable servings. So I'm going to do an example menu here. So if somebody was to have 2 cups of Rice Krispies and a cup of whole milk for breakfast, we'd count that as 4 servings of grain, 1 serving of dairy. And then if they were to have a granola bar and banana for lunch, it would be 2 grains and 1 fruit. For dinner, they would have spaghetti and marinara sauce, 2 slices of garlic bread. We'd be looking at like 6 grains if we were having like 2 cups of spaghetti plus the 2 garlic slices. And then the marinara sauce would count towards a vegetable. And then they had 2 brownies for dessert, and then some beverages, 2 coffees, 1 soda, 3 waters. So what we would want to do is categorize their foods. And this is what their breakdown would look like. It would be like 10 grains, no protein, 1 dairy, 1 fruit, 1 vegetable, and 3 others. And what we want to do is get it more balanced in terms of, we don't want to be missing things completely in a group and be so heavy on another group. So a menu makeover for this example, and you can kind of pull from these ideas for your own personalized menu plan, is that we could swap the Rice Krispies for a whole grain cereal. We could swap the whole milk for a low fat milk. We could add the fruit to the cereal. So, whether it's banana, strawberries, anything like that. Say they were busy and they were on the road and they had the granola bar and banana. You could add a Greek yogurt with that. That's pretty portable. So that way, at least we're getting a protein with that fruit and granola bar. Or you could pack a sandwich and an apple. So if we're looking at, like, say, a turkey and cheese sandwich with lettuce and tomato and an apple on the side, that would give all those 5 food groups. Salad with a protein, whether it's hard-boiled eggs or shredded mozzarella or any kind of cheese or grilled chicken. And then maybe having a roll or something with that as well, like a whole grain bread. And then for the dinner, again, with that spaghetti, it's really, we're eating the same foods, but we're just making those tweaks. And I think someone had mentioned that too, about, like, it's not what they're eating, but it's the amount they're eating. And one of the things that helps with that, if we're like physiologically hungry, is balancing it out so that we're getting a combination of carbohydrates and protein and fiber, because that's going to help with satiety and sustaining our energy levels. So we could shrink it down to 1 cup of spaghetti, add the marinara sauce, and then add a good protein source like the meatballs or chicken or mozzarella. And this is where we could combine the Barilla Plus pasta, because that's going to add some protein there as well. And then maybe 1 slice of garlic bread, and then adding a side salad would round that out a lot better. For the dessert, maybe they want to keep the brownies and that's their 80%, 20%, or maybe they want to try one of those nutrient-rich desserts. And then for the beverages, bumping up that water intake and maybe swapping out a soda for the sparkling water juice spritzer. So these would all be examples, and really just making 1 or 2 tweaks. Like if you see your plan and you say, oh gosh, I'm low on vegetables, I'm going to add 1 serving of vegetables at a meal, or I'm going to make half of my plate at dinner vegetables or whatnot. That's going to really makes a big impact. So I'd like to just see if anyone has any other questions. If you want to type them in the chat, or if you want to come on camera at all. But I think everyone has been very good in terms of a lot of your nutrition awareness looks good. Good. I love that everyone's sharing their numbers and sharing their specific foods. And these are giving good examples for all of us that we might want to try these combinations of healthy foods. Awesome. So did anyone have any other questions that they want to type in the chat box or talk on the camera? Everyone's so quiet. No questions at all? Did everyone get a chance to finish their breakdown in terms of, does anyone want to share or have any specific questions about how they could tweak theirs, or does everyone feel like they're good to go with a good action step? Okay, are foods cooked in air fryer healthy? Instant pot? Yes. Yep. So if you're cooking in the air fryer and it's, a lower fat method, you know what I mean? That's actually a good one too. I know that's gotten more popular in recent times. Good to go. Okay, great. For losing weight, what is the ideal percent of macronutrients? Okay, great. So the ideal percent of macronutrients is going to be about, it's a big range. So like say we're looking at like 45 to 65% of the total calories coming from carbohydrate. We're looking at about 10 to 15% coming from protein, and then 20 to 30% coming from fat. I'm hoping I added that up exactly right, to 100%. So that would be ideal, and you can kind of play around within those ranges. And then to actually take those macronutrients and put it into applying it, I would say back to that My Plate will then yield those macronutrient breakdowns. And really the big thing with losing weight is fiber. So our whole grains, vegetables and fruits, getting plenty of water and fluids, and protein, making sure we're getting protein at every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, evenly spaced out. because when we eat that combination of food, it's going to help us with our energy levels. It's going to help us with our satiety again, because if sometimes people are skipping meals and then it's like overeating later, or if somebody was to just grab that granola bar and banana without a protein, that's not going to be so great in terms of satiety. And then we're probably going to be like, oh, I'm so hungry when we get home for dinner. So that's why we want to make sure that we're doing that My Plate kind of a pattern for weight loss. There are so many yogurt choices. I don't always have time to do the fruit over plain. Fruit takes time to wash up. Yep, it does. Do you have a go-to recommendation for a basic berry yogurt? Okay, that's a great question. I don't think of a specific brand. I would just look at like the low fat. I mean, Greek, if you like the flavor of Greek is going to have more protein in it. So if it was Chobani or how do you pronounce the Oikos, that one, I'm drawing a blank in terms of all the different brands, but if you were looking for the non-fat or low fat and you want to add that flavor, like the berry flavor to it, like just purchase it and you're not adding your own fruit, I think those are all good. So just looking for the low fat, higher protein, like the Greek versions. Do you recommend a daily multivitamin? Okay, awesome question. So when we're looking at supplements, we want to remember that they supplement the healthy foods. So the way the food comes in nature, when we were talking about the phytonutrients and all the vitamins and all the different nutrition pieces that make up the food that comes in nature, that is going to be better absorbed by the body than if we say, oh, I'm going to take the vitamin C out of that orange and we're going to put it in a pill form. It's not like all the nutrients kind of act synergistically in that package of the actual food. So we definitely want to make sure foods are first. And then if we're eating that balanced plate most of the time, we probably are getting all the micronutrients and all the vitamins and everything that we need. It's not really harmful to add a multivitamin. If you want to add a multivitamin on top of that, we just wouldn't want to be getting into mega dose amounts. Just a regular multivitamin would be fine. And definitely foods first with all the trying to get our vitamins. Okay, we have love pineapple with yogurt, canned pineapple with yogurt. Okay, great. That's a good suggestion. Yogurt with the canned pineapple. I don't think I've tried that actually, like to just pair those two together. That sounds good. Canned peaches are great with yogurt. Awesome. You guys are like so good, like pairing all these great. And then again, we're comparing the protein with the carbohydrate or the fruit with the yogurt. So that's great. Okay, great. Oh yes. Okay, great ideas. Okay, so I'm glad that everyone was so interactive with this, and I hope you're getting a lot of good information and ideas. And I think everyone was so good with sharing ideas as well. We do have another program coming up in November. So it's on November 3rd at 6:30 p.m. And I'll be teaching a similar, Zoom kind of style. And it's going to be called Stress Management, a Proactive Approach. So if you want to sign up for that, I'd love to see you there. What we're going to do in that one is talk about nutrition specifically for stress. We're going to talk about fitness for stress. We're going to do a variety of exercises and learn about different modalities that are going to help us with managing our stress. Because I don't know about you, but I think a lot of us, including myself, are stressed in these times with how long this has been with COVID and all the other things going on. So I hope you will join us for stress management on November 3rd at 6:30 p.m. And then I have one more comment here. Like the snack idea is awesome. I'm looking for nutrition as an athlete. Okay, great. So nutrition for athletes. In general, we want to look at what we're eating throughout the day and throughout the course of the week. Same kind of format with the My Plate, and we can play around with the percentages of macronutrients. Like if you're doing more endurance training, it might be a little higher in carbohydrates, but still within that same macronutrient variety. And also post-workout recovery fuel is a good thing to do, which would be within 30 to 60 minutes after ending a workout, having some type of food, whether it's your meal or it's a snack, that's 3 grams of carbohydrate to 1 gram of protein. So if we were to divide it out, it could be like a half of a sandwich, or it could be cereal with milk, or shown to help again when we're breaking down the muscles. And then synergistically we add the that nutrition component within that timing. It builds the muscles stronger, so then you can work out harder in the next training session. So that's a whole other topic in terms of sports nutrition. So maybe that could be a topic in the future. But any other last questions? Awesome. Well, I appreciate everyone coming tonight, and I hope to see you again November 3rd, stress management.
Okay, well, Jill, thank you so much for tonight. On behalf of the Berlin Peck Library and the Lucy Robbins Wells Library, we're happy to have you. We look forward to having you again in November and in the future. So thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, you can contact us at the library, and Jill has her email up there, but we can also, if you have any additional questions, have them answered. Please remember tonight's program was videotaped. So you will be able to see it and go over some of her suggestions for the next month on our website. So thank you very much and have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good night.